Welcome to the Longest Turn Board Gaming Podcast. This is episode 58, Divinus. My name is Tyler.
Hello, this is Kevin.
This is Tyson. This is Logan.
In this episode, we're going to talk about the games we've been playing lately, a lot of review copies, and then we'll get into a feature review of Divinus, a new legacy game from Lucky Duck Games.
Or is it Divinus?
We looked it up.
We did. We did some research about how to pronounce it.
And the designer from Lucky Duck said Divinus. So that's what we're going with.
I think we've got it right. We've heard multiple pronunciations of this, though.
Logan Googled it and got Divinus.
Divinus?
Yep, Divinus.
I'm pretty sure we can cancel that one out, though.
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
It does sound terrible.
Have you ever noticed when Tyler has a hard time with a board game title, he tends to say the title of the board game repeatedly? I don't know if that's to drill it in for yourself.
Unfathomable.
Yeah, unfathomable.
It reinforces it in his brain,
Yeah,
that's
right?
right.
Yes. Yeah, he wants to get it right going forward.
Divinus.
Divinus.
Yeah.
I think it's a good little practice.
And
it
plus
drills it in for me.
We're getting the name out there multiple times before we even started talking about it.
I'm sure Lucky Duck loves that. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
we're not getting any sort of royalty on every time you say that, though.
Dang it.
Divinus. We got 3 cents.
Woohoo!
So we got my son Logan in the recording studio. Welcome, Logan.
Welcome.
Yeah, happy to be here again.
Hi, Logan.
Logan was on the Dune Imperium snapshot with me about 6 months ago. So
And you've heard Logan mentioned many times if you're a longtime listener to the podcast.
yeah.
He's played a few games.
Yeah, usually he wins against me when we play two-player games. Lately, at least, it seems like.
Pretty weak opponent, right, Log?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I taught him everything he knows.
Yeah, but you
And then
forgot it about
I
yourself.
forgot everything you knew.
Man,
there you go.
The next generation's got to be better than the previous. So,
That's the hope, anyway.
right?
Yeah. We've been playing a lot of games lately, right?
We have
A lot of good games.
yes,
We have, and we've been fortunate to receive a lot of the games we've been playing as review copies as well. And so some of the things that we'll be talking about are review copies. But the first one that we're going to talk about is not a review copy. It's one that I ended up backing. I knew very little about this game when I started backing it, other than people were really excited about it. It's called Unreliable Wizard. And Unreliable Wizard is designed by Kamibayashi, and that's who also does the art. It's like this 8-bit art that's on it, published by Salt and Pepper Games. Anyway, I'm just going to read a little bit of what the theme behind this game is, because I think it does it better than what I would do otherwise. But it says, the Demon Lord's minions have captured the princess. A band of heroes set out to rescue her, but they have been captured themselves. The king is now turned to the great mage for help, but he has fallen ill. The task has fallen to you, the wizard's apprentice. You may lack the wisdom of the great mage, but you have the will. Can you free the heroes, defeat the demon lord, and save the princess?
That sounds epic.
It sounds like Mario, doesn't it?
It does sound like Mario.
It sounds like Luigi.
and it's 8-bit, right?
yeah. I was gonna say, it sounds 8-bitish.
Yeah.
But I think it's a fun theme. It's fantasy themed, but it is like a little mini dungeon crawl. Essentially, it's a 32 card game, and there is a meeple for your character to walk along a map, and there is a Demon Lord token. It also came with an expansion that I've yet to try called Unreliable Wizard and the Unstable Spirits Tower, which adds more minions and things that you fight and items. But I haven't tried that yet. I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about the base game. But essentially what it is you have 3 of the 32 cards are lined up vertically in a way that they form a map. And this map has a number of hexagons on it, and each hexagon is color-coded and has a letter and a number on it defining what type of terrain you're on. So you could be in the desert, you could be in a volcano, you could be in a dungeon, you could be in a forest, et cetera, et cetera. So what you're trying to do is you are progressing from the bottom of this map all the way to the top where the Demon Lord is. And essentially you're trying to kill minions along the way at certain checkpoints and collect items to add to your hands. Items or spells. Really, when I say items, it's actually companions that can do unique little things. As you're going through this map, every step you take is going to hurt you. So you have to decide, is it worth it to go to these certain locations to collect the items under certain monsters because you have a finite amount of health? And really, this is a game of attrition because pretty much everything you're doing is you're going to be taking hits. There are certain checkpoints along the map where you can stop and they're going to regenerate your health to some extent. And so that's the way that you can quickly get a lot of health back. Otherwise, health can be kind of hard to come by in the game. And when you fight the enemies, it's got this combat system that actually reminds me a lot of Distilled. In the card drafting. So think of like in Distilled where you have the pile of cards that essentially you're putting a bunch of cards into, and then you are drawing a certain number from, and you have to make do with whatever's left there. So each of these cards have the potential to create spells. And when you go and defeat enemies, you'll collect more potential spells that can make them more powerful and do more damage. So you're trying to craft your deck in a way that you can increase the probabilities of drawing things that are going to maximize your output of damage. And so you're going to go through this whole process back and forth. It's kind of the same thing over and over until you reach the Demon Lord, who has a lot of health and does a lot of potential damage, and you have to find your way to beat it. So it's really just reach the top, see if you can beat everything.
Have you beat it?
I did. I beat it on my first try.
That's a little discouraging on your first try.
That was my initial reaction to it. Was maybe it was too easy, but the expansion does add some difficulty to it, and it adds a little bit of a twist. But I also think that maybe I got lucky with my first draw of cards that I had because I already had dual spells. So my damage output was high, and then the things that I collected along my journey was a lot of companions that just made it easier. I imagine playing it more and more, it may be more difficult than my first play was. But I don't know. I enjoyed it, but I don't know that
hesitant.
I love it. Yeah, it's been getting a lot of hype. Now, I didn't mention that you have like a spell book card that tells you what kinds of spells you can get, and you can discover a new spell book that allows you to do different spells. And I also didn't get this hybrid spell card. It allows you to mix and match your spells. So essentially, it would allow me to hybridize a water spell and a fire spell and mix them together to do a potential output. Each enemy has specific weaknesses and stuff, so you may want to use different spells for different enemies. So there is some more to explore there that I haven't really experienced, but I do feel like for that first play, when you're playing a solo game or like a cooperative game, I want a challenge.
Yeah. Are there meaty decisions, do you think? Are you agonizing between doing this or doing that, or is it?
No, I felt like there were obvious decisions to me.
That's not good either, right?
Like obviously I want to maximize my output, right? Like I want to do whatever the most potential damage is. And right now it looks like doing the most potential damage is to use water spells because this guy is weak to water. So I'm going to use those spells. And that means that I'm going to put in my card draw deck water spells as my most likely one to do, and then you do have to throw one out, so I always stick an extra spell in there to be able to kind of ensure that I have enough to at least do my minimum output that I'd like. So there is some decisions that I really enjoyed, but not enough that made me feel like I wasn't hooked after my first play of this. I need to explore it more, but I haven't been like itching to explore it more.
Do you think you'd like it more if it was 16-bit since you didn't really have an 8-bit childhood?
Yeah. Ooh. No, that's not true, but sure.
Good question.
I had an 8-bit childhood. I played on an Atari, thank you very much.
Okay.
I played Popeye, the Sailor Man, and
We haven't had a good Tyson age joke for a while.
Since last episode, yeah.
I put some thought into that one.
You did. You were just sitting over there quiet for a while, and then boom.
Yeah. Cool. So are you going to explore the expansion next?
Yeah, I think that's my next. Well, I still think I need to
'Cause
go
there
back
has-
to the base game, the first
Yeah.
game, to make sure that one, I didn't miss any potential rule issues that I did, and then I want to explore more by adding the new minions and things like that.
Yeah. Because it has been getting a lot of buzz about it.
It really has, and
So I was,
And maybe
I was
I'm just
surprised.
missing out.
You're the solo guy in our group predominantly, so I was surprised that your reaction, I guess, a little bit.
And don't get me wrong, I don't dislike it, but if I'm going to play a solo game, I'm going to play the ones that I really like before I play this one. And this one doesn't fit. Like, it says it plays in 20 minutes. It took me an hour to play through this whole thing. And I'm not new to solo.
Right.
I know how to play solo games. I don't know.
You're the solo guy.
Yeah.
But whatever. I like the game, but I don't know if I like it enough to have it as a regular solo game.
Do you think wizards like time travel?
I think certain wizards might.
You think so? All right. Well, I've got a game about time travel. Oh. This is a game from Underdog Games. They were nice enough to send us some review copies, like we mentioned earlier. This game is called Trekking Through History. It's designed by Charlie Bink with art done by Eric Hibbler. So this is a time travel game. You are traveling through time to various points in history, okay? You play it over 3 days, and each day is broken out into 12 hours. So the way the game works is you have this deck of cards, all right? And you flip them over in a line. So you have 6 cards that you can choose from, all right? And you're going to choose one of these cards. Now, each card has a time value on it. Everybody starts off with their pocket watch at 12 o'clock. They're going to go 12 hours back to 12 o'clock. That signifies 1 day worth of time travel. And then you start the next round. So each card that you pick has a time value on it, and you will move your pocket watch whatever that time value is. You do have crystals that can reduce that time value, so you don't go, let's say you pick a card that has 4, you spend a crystal, you only move 3. And then whoever is furthest behind gets to go next. So think about like Nova Luna, that mechanic, or Patchwork, that mechanic. It's the same exact thing. If you land on top of somebody else's pocket watch, you get to go. You have priority. You get to go next. Okay, so you're taking a card, and each of the cards that you take will have these tokens that you pick up called experience tokens, and you're trying to fill in your itinerary. Okay, so there's I think 4 different types of tokens, and then a wild token, and those match up with spaces on your itinerary. So you're trying to fill from top to bottom these spaces, and as you fill in rows and columns, you're going to get points, you'll get more of these crystals, and you'll get additional benefits. I think those are the majority of them, but you're trying to fill that in, okay? Then you move your pocket watch, and then you place a card in a trek. What you're trying to do is go from the earliest point in history to a later point in history. So it has to go, you pick up a card that is 708 BCE, right? You need a card that is earlier than that to put into your trek, and you have to keep on going up all the way up to the 1900s. You're trying to build the biggest trek as possible, okay? Once you can't continue building your trek, you have to start a new trek. So that one goes to the side, you start a new one. That is pretty much the whole game. You do that over 3 rounds. You get a certain amount of points for how long each of your treks are. The longer the trek, the more points you get, up to 30 points. You'll get points that you earn during the game. You'll get points for leftover crystals. Whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins. So this is very much a light family game. There's not a ton of strategy, but there is, I think, enough to appeal to gamers, right? It'll bring in families, it'll bring in gamers as well. A few things that I like about the game. The production of the game is great. It comes with game trays, inserts. So fantastic production. You pull out this little insert and it has all the tokens already organized. You just pull the top off of it and you're ready to go. Setup is super easy. It comes with a neoprene mat that you roll out for the board, which is really cool. So I think the production is done really well. I think There's good decisions in the game. Whether or not you take a history card to continue your trek, to make it longer, or you take it for the tokens to work on your itinerary. There's good, interesting decisions there. There's a time warp expansion that adds a little bit of variability. You only use 3 of those cards during the game. Those change every game. It says don't put these in until you played the game once. Just put them in. It's like the game's not complicated enough to really have to worry about that, I don't think, for the majority of the people who play it. So I think it's good. I think it's a good game. It's a good family weight game that I think people will really enjoy.
It looks like each of the cards have historical text to learn while you're playing, right?
Yep. And I love that about Underdog Games. So last year, one of the hits for me was Her Story, and that was done by Underdog Games as well. And you could read about, the influential women in history on each of the cards. Same style here. If you, draft a card about building the Great Wall, you can turn the card over and read a little paragraph about that moment in history. And every single card in the game has that, which is really cool.
The cards also have the year on them too.
Yeah.
This is like good Jeopardy studying material.
That's right. Yeah. It's great. I didn't even think about that, but yeah. Play this game and you will learn Jeopardy trivia.
I'm flipping through and I'm looking at, like you said, this production is gorgeous and
really well done. Yeah.
The components look amazing. It looks like you've got potentially wax seals.
I was just going to say that. Are those wax seals, Kevin?
They are not wax
they're plastic,
seals.
right?
They're plastic.
Oh, so they don't stick together like
by color.
You don't have to worry about
journey,
that.
No Darwin's Journey issues here. No
That's
sticking.
what I figured.
Right.
But then you
only
also
like colors though, right?
Yeah. And you don't have to worry about that at all in this one because they're plastic. Good decision, Underdog Games. I think as well, though, this art is beautiful.
It's good, right? Yeah.
The first
I think it's really good.
piece of art that I looked at was I'm assuming this is during a women's suffrage movement because it says votes for women, I think, on this sign. And it shows a woman taking down a constable is what it looks like. The art is beautiful, but it is evocative and does a good job of telling the story of the history. Like Albert Einstein's in here. It looks really good.
Yeah, I'm looking at one now. Rock Out to Live Aid. I think it has Freddie Mercury on the card or something.
Oh, yeah.
It's just got cool moments in history.
Marie Curie.
Yeah, it's really cool. I also I mentioned it, but the whole clock and the mechanic of, the decision, that's another layer of decision making, right? How many spots am I going to move along the clock when I take this card? Am I going to be able to take a double move that's going to allow me to get more of these tokens to fill in my itinerary? So I think that I love that in Nova Luna. I love that in Patchwork. I think it's implemented here really well.
You mentioned Nova Luna and Patchwork earlier, and that got me thinking of other games that do that similarly. And Search for Planet X, which I really enjoyed, does the same thing.
Yeah.
And even like Pulsar feels like it has some of that to some extent. And just anything that does that player order kind of like makes that decision of, do I take this action now because it may put me in a position where I won't get a turn for a while, or like it'll.
But it's a really good card.
I love
it fits perfect.
those decisions. So I'm glad that sounds really intriguing to me.
It looks like Underdog Games' niche is lightweight family games with some informational,
historical, educational vibe.
I really like that. I mean, you mentioned Her Story. There's a few other trekking games. I mean, they're all fairly lightweight. Coconuts.
Right. Coconuts is fantastic.
Not informational.
No. But there are monkeys flicking coconuts. Which who doesn't like that?
Were they weren't the original publisher of that? Did they pick that one up, or are they the original? So maybe they got it and it helps.
Maybe that's a licensing thing or something. I don't know.
But it's family weight.
Right. Oh, it's definitely family weight. It's probably my 6-year-old's favorite game. She loves flicking coconuts. Nice. But you mentioned the other trekking games, Trekking the World, Trekking the National Parks. We did get a copy of Trekking the World as well, so we'll be talking about that in a future episode. I'm assuming it's a kind of a similar family weight game that has some good historical info on it as well. So, I mean, I think Underdog Games is doing a great job. I really have enjoyed the games that I played from them. So that one is Trekking Through History.
Cool. I'm going to talk about a game that Logan taught us tonight. It's a trick-taking game from Bezier Games, designed by Christopher Ray. So I'm going to read the theme or the synopsis of what's going on in this game because it's kind of hilarious and somebody put some work into it. All right, the inspiration. On July 6, 1985, young Bobby McColdsnap attended a concert in Calgary, Alberta, where he rocked out to Howard Jones' Things Can Only Get Better with 5,000 other fans. That night changed his life, and Bobby went back to his home in Churchill, Manitoba, with a new mission. He wanted to be a guitarist. The problem: Bobby was a polar bear, and the keys and knobs on guitars of the 1980s were just too small for his paws. So we're going back a little in time here. He enlisted the help of a local craftsman, Kiefer Bassett, to create an alternative that he could operate. This new musical device would be based on both xylophone and synthesizer technology. Bobby eagerly began writing music that could be played on this device in anticipation of the delivery of his new Xylotar.
Oh man, I really felt the theme come through when we played.
So I love the backstory, but yeah,
I love it. I love that they put that in there though.
Yeah,
I
think that's fantastic.
Will Ferrell to make a movie out of this because it feels like
is he going to play the bear? Or what?
Well, it feels like Mugatu with the piano tie or Eurovision.
Eurovision.
It feels like this is ripe for movie material.
He's absolutely right.
Play
Okay, here, well, there's more. The tragedy.
You're not done yet.
The twist. Just after,
wait, there's more.
Just after Kiefer delivered the prototype Xylotar to Bobby, Kiefer disappeared. Bobby was questioned by the authorities because, well, Bobby was a polar bear. Concerned that the Canadian justice system wouldn't treat him fairly, Bobby took his Xylotar and ran off into the wilderness. Near the Arctic Circle, when the aurora borealis is brightest, you may hear classic 80s tunes echoing through the night.
Oh, wow.
Okay, lots of cool backstory there.
Equal rights for polar bears is what I want now.
Yeah. Yes, right?
Yeah. That's cool.
So really this is a trick-taking game where there's a bunch of different suits, and each suit is a different musical note. So the red ones are full notes. Their values range from 0 to 10. The quicker the note, the smaller the range of the card values for that color. Okay?
I did not put that together, but I see it now. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So red is going to be red is going to be trump. And what you do, you deal out equal hands to all four players. Each player is going to look at the cards in their hand, and they're going to organize them from highest to lowest, and then they're going to pass them to the next player. And then that player lays the new hand that they've been given, each card face down, so they don't know what the numbers are, but on the backs of the card are the colors and the note type, so you know what the possible ranges of each card are. And they lay them out left to right, face down, and then you start playing a trick-taking game where you got to follow suit. If you can't follow suit, then you you can play a trump card or any card that you want to play. Whoever plays the highest number of the suit that was led or the highest trump, will win the trick, and then just goes around like that until everybody's exhausted all of their cards. You play 3 rounds. Whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins. Now, there's something really interesting. At a certain point, and you can choose when to do this, you can make a bid on how many tricks you think you're going to win during this round, okay? So how you do that, you take 2 of your face down cards, and you may have played a couple of your cards, so you know, hey, they're going highest to my left, down to the lowest on my right. I played a 5 from here and a 3 from here. I'm going to pick 2 cards from in between those. You look at them, and you have to choose one, and that's what your bid is for the number of tricks that you're going to win.
So you're trying to pick cards that you think you know, so that you can get the trick number that you want.
Right.
And that can go your way or it can't.
Right. And so if you get the number of tricks that you bid, then you're going to score 5 additional points at the end of the round, in addition to 1 point per trick that you win during the round. So some very interesting things going on in this game. Logan taught this to us tonight, and it was a blast. I loved it.
Yeah.
And it was really fun without the bidding action, but including that in the game and allowing the flexibility of, hey, I can wait till the very end almost to choose what my bid's going to be, or I can try and play it right at the start and then let that determine how I'm going to play the whole round.
In theory, you could even have waited until the last card to make that your bid.
Yes.
Which is risky.
It is risky, but if you do know what your last card is, because there's ways to narrow it down, we didn't see this happen. I could see it being that if you've been spending your whole time getting tricks and you left your last card and you maximized it, you could score potentially a lot of points that way. It'd be really hard to do it, but if you could do it, it would make for a really exciting moment, I think, to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Now, I love trick takers in general. When I play a new trick taker, I'm always looking for what's the new gimmick, right? Because for whatever reason, I think that this particular genre of games has the ability to have so many diverse, unique ways to play it, and you get new experiences each time you play it. I loved the concept in this game of I don't know what my cards are. Somebody else does know what my cards are.
Maybe if they remember.
There's a lot of cards to remember.
But yeah.
But at least they know like the high card probably and your low card. They have a good idea of that. And so you put that together with that whole bidding element of it and being able to bid at any point, because we've played trick takers that you can start the round and make a bid, right?
That's a common mechanism in trick takers.
But
Absolutely.
putting it anywhere within the round, that's unique.
Really cool.
And it was
And
interesting.
I love the different colors, right? Like when you order those colors and you give them to your opponent and there's a pink in the middle of their row, they're like, well, crap, I got low numbers for the rest of
It's like 0 to 3.
It's 0 to 3, right?
I got one of the rounds, I got a 0 to 3, and I think it was like my fourth from highest card. And so
Yeah.
that means like I had 8 cards that were lower than 3 at least.
And I was the one that passed you that deck, and I just started busting up laughing. And you laid them out, and you immediately knew why.
Yeah.
It was funny.
Yeah.
It adds a different element to the game. And like you said, Tyson, you're looking for something new and something unique in a trick taker, not a rehash of the same type of thing. And this one does it perfectly, I think. And it's unique, it's fresh, it's fun, it's got the stuff you haven't seen before, which is really cool.
It's cool because you almost have simultaneously more information and less information than other trick takers, because you don't know your own hand, but you know the suits that the other players have. So you can plan around where you try to play a suit that you say, no, the other players don't have, and maybe try to force someone to play a trump suit. And that was really cool.
I was going to say the same thing, because essentially other trick takers, you're keeping track of what color of suit somebody has, and you think, okay, I've drained them of all of this color suit. So now if I play this, it should be fine. But that is perfect information for everybody. You know exactly how many colors of each suit everybody has.
But you don't know the numbers,
Right.
Which makes for some super interesting decisions towards the end of the game, because you've made a bid. You have like 3, like so I had 3 tricks that I had won. I needed to get to 4, but I knew the colors, but I didn't know the numbers, you know? Yeah. So you're taking a chance and playing a card, hoping that you're going to win and have a higher number than the other person. You're looking to see if there's any trump cards around the table that can win it. And if there's not, then it just it creates exciting moments towards the end.
Yeah. Something that I love too is in trick-taking games, it can feel bad when you get dealt a really crummy hand and the game doesn't allow you to do anything with that. In this game, you can get a really crummy hand of cards in front of you and bid 0 or 1 trick. And if you get that 1 trick or you win 0 tricks, then you're getting 5 points, even in a round that your 4th highest card is a 3 or a 4, right? I mean, that feels really good to me.
And that's a lot of points, right?
It is.
So, I mean, points in this last game that we played average. I mean,
it was average in the
20,
teens,
but it was
I think.
averaging in the teens, right?
Yeah.
So 5 points in a round is really good.
Yeah.
And you're not out of it.
Right. And to me, that's something I love about it. I do not like, it stinks even in a short of a game as a trick taker, right? Where you get dealt a hand that you can't do anything with. That's not fun. And yeah, it's only one round per se in some games, but
But you're just sitting there waiting for a better hand to be dealt the next round.
right. And in this game, you're still trying to make decisions that will impact you possibly getting 5 points.
Well, because you're playing other people's hands as much as you're playing your own hand at the table, which is so interesting. I would say, though, if there was one complaint I had about this game, and this isn't really a complaint, more of a be aware of, is that for what this game is and how like small of a package it comes in, this is a table hog. This is a small box game, but don't let it fool you. 4 players, we filled up the entire table, and we couldn't have fit a 5th player on that table.
A large game table
Right.
well. For a small card game, you couldn't fit 5.
And the cards are shaped like the space-based cards.
Yes.
They're very long and skinny.
Yep.
And they still go across the whole table when you've got all of them out there.
So if you're a sleever, it may be a little bit more difficult to sleeve these cards.
Yeah. Right, Tyson?
I was not complaining about sleeving at all, other than, now I'm going to complain about sleeving.
So we did play 4-player. It plays up to 5. There are 2-player based rules, but I haven't tried those out. But I thought this was fantastic. I think this is going to definitely hit the table in the future. Really fun trick taker with some unique things going on.
Yeah, and I think the more you play it, the more you'll see the nuances of the game too.
Yep.
So I think it would reward repeated plays for sure.
Well, yeah, and it was cool because even in the last round, like the last 3 cards, everybody was talking, like trying to figure out, like, ooh, what's the best play for this person? Like, how can we maximize our points? And, it was really cool.
Yeah. I liked it. It was a win for me.
So Xylotar has a great theme, right? Really salient. It comes through very well. It's amazing.
I forgot to tell the backstory. We should have told the backstory before we played it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Then it would have even been a better experience.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have seen a difference, but at least there was a theme in Xylotar. The next game we're talking about is called Splitter, and if you want the themeless game possible, Splitter's your bet, right? Like, this is a game that is on par with Sudoku in terms of theme.
Right.
And that's not a knock to this game either. So Splitter is a game that we got from Pandasaurus, and I like what Pandasaurus has been offering in their small box games. One of my favorite small box games is Silver and Gold.
Dripping with fame.
Another one that we recently talked about, Arum, which is a
Arum.
trick taker. Little bit more theme, actually.
That one did have a theme.
did have theme.
It was
Absolutely.
like metals, right? Or
you
It was like
alloys or something.
you're trying to turn metals into gold, right? So there's a little.
It's
bit of
alchemy,
theme.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Splitter has no theme. What Splitter is, and in terms of component, this is a really small box game. It's 2 score pad types of things, like tear-off score pads, roll and write type of papers, very small, and 4 pencils and 2 dice. It was like compact, and it's a small rule set, so it's really easy to get in and get out, get played. But essentially how this game plays is everybody has one of these score sheets, and you're going to have either the A score sheet or the B score sheet, and they're just different patterns. The idea of the game is everybody's going to take a turn rolling dice, and whatever values show up on the dice, you have to write both values on your paper. However, the paper is symmetrical and split down the middle, hence it's called Splitter. And so you have to put them in symmetrical locations. So if I put it in a square on the left, it has to go to the same mirrored square on the right. And I'm filling it out. So say I roll 1 and a 4, I have to choose a 4 that goes on one side and a 1 goes on the other side. You can choose whichever size you want. You're just going to go through, everybody's going to roll through until their whole sheet is filled up. And then at the end, you're going to score based off of the groupings of numbers you have. So if you have a 1, if it's grouped just alone, it scores 1 point. If you have a grouping of 2s written on your paper, the number 2 next to another number 2, that's going to score you 2 points for each of those groupings, all the way up to 6. There is also 2 star values on the sheet, and if you put a number in that star value, it's going to double the points that it gets. So if I have 6 sixes and one of those 6s is on the star value, I end up with 12 points. So this game has very little rules overhead. That's the rules, and then you just calculate the points. You're rolling dice, writing numbers down. It is super casual, and I played this solo first, and just I played it in like 5 minutes. I think, Kevin, you also played it solo?
Yeah, super quick.
Yeah, really quick, and it was very like relaxing. Like, just if you like Sudoku or any of those, like a numbers game, this was really relaxing from a solo perspective. But then when we played it as a group,
It kicked it up a notch.
it did.
Yeah.
And I love that the term "misery loves company" came to mind with this game, where it was we were all forced into situations that we didn't want to be in, forcing us to write numbers in spots that we didn't want, and like everybody could feel that.
But there was strategy around that too, where you could kind of set yourself up to you're playing the odds, right? You're trying to set yourself up to be successful. I was surprised at how much I liked it as a group.
I did too.
After playing it solo, I enjoyed it solo, but it was a blast. It was a blast. It was a lot of fun. You know?
Well, and I had a chance to complete my 6s, which would have been worth 6 points. The other number was a 3, and that would have ruined my 3s that were on a double scoring. So I was essentially going to give up 6 points to lose 6 points. And so I passed on that location, and then another 6 never came back out. And so just some fun decisions that you're just hoping for the best. You know that things are going to get jacked up at some point.
Yeah. Well,
But everybody's stuff's getting jacked up.
it's
So like
happening
you said,
to everybody.
misery loves company.
Yeah.
It's fun.
But we were talking about this. You could create your own sheets so easily. You can make themed ones like a Halloween one, a Christmas one. You know, you got a jack-o'-lantern that's split down the middle that's symmetric, right? You could do a Valentine's one. I mean, you can make your own pads and laminate them and play this with 2 dice.
Yeah, if Pandasaurus could do official ones, but if they don't do that, come up with your own stuff.
Yeah,
It's
there's
super easy.
a lot of fan variants you could make easily on this. But there is another variant to this play. So there's an A sheet and a B sheet.
Oh.
The B sheet has
We just went up a whole number
heart
in
symbols
complexity.
on it. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
0.01 in complexity. No, the B sheet has hearts on it and just adds a new symbol that if you fill all 3 of the hearts with the same value, you automatically get 5 points at the end. So
Which is quite a bit.
I could see along the fan variant type of stuff, adding new symbols and stuff like this.
Oh, yeah,
This
totally.
game could have a lot of different variations and room to grow. And I'd be fine if Pandasaurus put out more. To me, it reminds me of like Welcome to in the terms of how many score sheets and things that they have. If you wanted to put out a bunch of that, I'd be happy to get more of these and play with it.
You could have like 6 unique squares that you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you do that, you get 10 points or something like that. It's infinitely expandable.
Yeah, I want to create some of my own and print them out. I mean, I got Photoshop, and I print them out and go laminate them and try them out.
I'll be honest, when we got this one and looked at it, I was not all that enthusiastic or excited by it, but I was really surprised that I ended up enjoying it as much as I did.
Well, and one more thing about it, you could play with infinite number of people, right? Because everybody's playing every turn, regardless of who's rolling the dice. So you could play with 10 people. If 10 people show up to a big game night or a family reunion, you could get out 15 sheets and whatever.
I love that about roll and writes, because a lot of roll and writes do that, where you're playing off a shared pool, whether it's a flip and write cards or dice, then everybody's doing the same thing, which is awesome.
This would be a fun con game too, I think, for that type of a purpose. You could have one person rolling numbers and like a room full of 100 people. AEG did that with Tiny Towns, which had 100 people playing Tiny Towns.
They should have shipped this to every bingo hall in America.
Oh, absolutely.
Every family reunion should have this as well.
Right.
But yeah, that is Splitter from Pandasaurus.
All right. The next game I have to talk about is not quite as simple as Splitter. It's got a few more rules to it.
Just a couple.
Just a couple.
A little bit more theme too.
A little bit, a lot more theme. I'm looking at the rule book now and 63 pages.
Whoa.
But a lot of that is scenarios that you're going to play. So this game was sent to us from Lucky Duck. It is Kingdom Rush Elemental Uprising. The theme of this is based on the digital game Kingdom Rush, which I have not played, but I believe there's a few here that have played.
What do you think,
You've played,
Logan?
Lug?
Oh yeah, I love all the Kingdom Rush games. They're amazing.
They're awesome.
In fact, Logan saw me bring the rules, and he immediately started salivating, asking about the game, saying, hey, I'd really like to play that one. So I think we'll get a few plays in soon here. So I had a chance to play it single player. It's a cooperative game. So like most cooperative games, playing single player is perfectly acceptable. It doesn't change the rules a whole lot, and that's how it is in this case as well. So if you don't know about Kingdom Rush, it is a tower defense game. So you have what seems like endless hordes that are coming, and they're trying to escape the map and destroy your kingdom. And if they do escape, there's a certain amount of health that you have, and for each horde symbol that it escapes, you lose 1 health. If you lose all of your health, then you're toast. You lose. I will say this game is very, very difficult. They have an intro scenario that I lost at the intro scenario. I played the first scenario and I lost that one as well, just barely. And I've read a lot of comments online that it's just a very difficult cooperative game and you're going to lose a lot. I don't think that's necessarily a negative. I think the digital game is pretty difficult as well. Is that right?
The early levels are really easy, but the later levels can take several tries for sure.
Yeah. So I think they probably did that on purpose just to kind of match the actual digital game as well. So the way this plays, it's played over a number of rounds, and that's variable based on the scenario. The one that I played was 5 rounds, and I had to survive every horde and get rid of every horde by the end of the 5th round. But every scenario you play is going to be a little bit different, and the win conditions are going to be different, which I think is awesome, right? So it switches it up. So the general gameplay is you're going to spawn new hordes. They're going to come out at the beginning of every round, except for the first round. You're going to play tower and hero cards. And the tower cards and the heroes are kind of where the meat of the game is. Each hero is going to have a special ability, a certain thing that they can do that kind of breaks the rules. So it's very asymmetric that way. There are tower cards, and there's a bunch of different types of tower cards. There's archers, there's militia, there's dwarven cannons, and they all do a little bit of a different thing. All right. And then you can upgrade those cards. So you're going to be playing them on the board on your specific player color. You're going to orient them because there's arrows that point certain ways to attack the hordes. The hordes are cards, and each card has a number of squares on it that represent 1 horde. And these towers will put these Tetris-like pieces on the cards, and you're trying to cover them up. So as soon as you cover up all of the hordes on the card, that horde is then defeated at the end of the round. You'll get a little bit of a bonus in the form of money or diamonds, and you'll be able to upgrade, buy new towers, and mods for your current towers, which is really cool. All right, so you destroy the horde trays, you advance the horde trays, that's where they can escape off the board. You're going to pick up all of your towers and heroes, and then you're going to do it all again. More hordes come. You play towers, you play your heroes, and you try to basically survive until you win the scenario. It was a lot of fun. I liked it. I thought it's one that I barely scratched the surface of the game. There's all kinds of other content that's in the box that you can explore. There's this big tentacle monster that I have no idea what it does, but I'm like, this thing's going to destroy me. I know it, but I want to find out,
So is it a campaign with a story or just different scenarios that you play?
It is a story. I don't think it's not a narrative heavy story,
okay,
right? But it is a campaign, a 12-game campaign that builds on itself, and it'll teach you more mechanics as you go along. So it's
progressing.
It's progressing, right? I did say that it's hard. I wish it was a little bit easier in the intro scenarios. And you can adjust difficulty. I played on the normal difficulty, so maybe I should adjust it a little bit. But it just seems like maybe they should have designed it where it's it's a little bit easier just to get into the game, right? That's one minor little nitpick I have.
Do you think adding more players would help you manage that difficulty? Because you played it solo. Would having other people, like the collaborative element, actually support like solving issues or anything like that? Or where is the collaboration, I guess, in Kingdom Rush?
So this game is a puzzle. That's all it is, right? You're trying to play your towers in a way that you can cover the hordes. So the collaboration comes from everybody trying to figure out that puzzle together. Where I think you may not like this one, Tyson, is I think this one lends itself to maybe quarterbacking a little bit, where somebody can say,
hey, I think that puzzle
I think I can solve
whatever.
this a little bit quicker. I think we should get this and we should do this and we should do this. I think, I don't think that's an issue with the game. I think that's an issue with the people you play with.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
But if there's somebody like that in the group, I think that may be a potential problem with the game. But the collaboration comes from how are we going to solve this puzzle together, right?
Right.
And keep these hordes from escaping. And I think it scales. It seems like, I haven't played with more players, but it seems like it scales well to multiple players. You get less towers, I think, with multiple players. It sets up differently depending on the player count, right? I don't know. I think it's good. I think it's a fun game.
Yeah, you got this and from Lucky Duck, and I instantly wanted to go start playing the game again on my iPad.
Oh, yeah.
I played a number of them. I haven't played all of them, but it is a fun tower defense game. Does this game have any Easter eggs in it?
I don't know.
Okay, so like the digital game, Logan, like on every level, there's like hidden Easter eggs. Like you'll see like a wizard walking and you can click him and you'll see Yoda or something, right?
Yeah, and there's one that I remember that's like a river, and you see two hobbits and barrels going down the river, and it's just it's awesome. It's got cool nods and stuff you can tap to make special actions happen, and yeah.
You know what? I didn't notice anything, but maybe I
I wonder if
wasn't
they would
looking for
leave
it, right?
those out just so they avoided issues, but.
Might be a licensing potential issue with the digital versus the board
But
game.
when you got this, it looks like the digital game, right? I mean, it makes me want to go play that. I really want to try this out. I think Logan and I are going to come over and maybe Tyson, if he's available, and try out
Next
Kingdom
week.
Rush.
Let's
next
do
week.
it.
Spring break in the snow.
Let's do it. Hopefully the snow's melted a little bit by then. But yeah, let's play it. I'm excited to play it with more multiplayer. So.
And I'm looking at the art right now, and it's cool because it's not just one of the Kingdom Rush games. It looks like it has content from at least two of them. I think the first two I'm seeing a lot of the art from. How many heroes do you have?
So I think, if I remember right, there's 5 heroes. The production of it's great. But yeah, I think 5.
And is the max player count 5 or is it 4?
4. So max player count is 4. It's a good one. I'm excited to play some more.
Yeah, we definitely need to play this with you, especially because you've invested in the 60-page rule book.
It did take a while to figure it out. I think the rule book is pretty well done, but it was a little bit of digging and referencing, and there's a glossary that comes with it as well that you're going to be looking at to get clarifications on certain things. So it wasn't the best laid out rule book that I've read, but it did a good enough job that I got through it. So that is Kingdom Rush Elemental Uprising.
Cool. I'm going to talk about another trick-taking game from Bezier Games. This was designed by Ted Alspach, and the artist is Greg Bartlett. Going to new heights. This is Sandbag. We've joined a hot air balloon festival, and we're trying to go higher than our opponents. Okay, so it's a trick-taking game where you potentially could gain rockets and send your hot air balloon into outer space and score a lot of points. It's a game where you're trying to not win tricks, which is an interesting concept. I don't know of any other trick takers that I've played like that, where you're trying to avoid winning the tricks, all of them. But you start out the game, you have 2 balloon cards in front of you, and you have a sandbag card, and everybody has a sandbag card. You can play other people's balloon cards that are in front of them, and then those turn into sandbags for them. You trade a card.
From your hand, it goes face down and they can't use it, but you get to use the card that they put face up.
Right. And sandbag cards are just 1 point against you at the end of the round. Also, when you change, by doing that, you're changing trump, and it could happen mid-hand. The trump is determined by the most number of colored cards. So if there's 3 oranges out there, that's going to be trump if that's the highest number of cards that people have in front of them as part of their balloons, right?
This game's got some really cool qualities and then not so great qualities too. One thing I love is this trick-taking game. You almost plan out the entire round before people start playing tricks, because you choose your sandbag card, which is just a free pass during the round. You don't win. You can't win a trick with the sandbag, or technically you can, but it's in an extremely rare situation that's not going to happen. And you put out the 2 cards in front of you, and then you also give cards to the players on your left or right.
Yep.
And so that part I really love about the game, because it's really interesting to kind of figure out, hey, what are the cards I want to play? What are the cards I want to put in front of me? And one thing that's cool is the cards that you put in front of you, if they don't get traded for, you get points equal to their value. So if I put out a 5 in front of me and that doesn't get traded for, that's 5 points against me at the end of the round. Another thing that's cool is rocket cards are -5 points. So sometimes you do want to win tricks to try to get rockets.
But it's hard to do if you're playing the rocket, right? You can essentially only win rocket cards by playing one if everybody else is playing a rocket card too.
Right.
Which doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. And I think, I just love the planning out the round before it starts. But the complaint about this game is kind of once the round actually starts, it's very
deterministic.
Yeah, there's not very many choices, and the choices are very obvious. But before that, I think the decision making is really cool.
Yeah, it's an interesting take on trick takers. I've never, like I said, I don't think I've played one.
Yes,
where
you have.
What?
And this is why I want to jump into this conversation.
Okay, absolutely, please.
Because I actually am very intrigued by this game now that you're describing it.
Wait a minute. Gorus
Maximus
Yep.
So Gorus Maximus has similar mechanisms in it.
I can see why you forgot it though.
You don't want to win the tricks.
Oh, okay.
In
I
Gorus
don't remember
Maximus
that at all.
as much. Certain tricks you don't want to win almost at all, and then the trump suit can switch mid round.
So it's very similar.
And so there's some similarities to it. So I'm wondering if maybe
it's just a me thing.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler. I don't know that this one resonated with you as much as it may other trick takers have necessarily.
Absolutely.
So
that's definitely fair to say.
Compared to Xylotar, for example.
Yes.
I love Gorus Maximus, and I've played a lot of that, and it does things differently, but it also makes you think in a way that is kind of weird for trick takers. And so it didn't resonate with our group well when we played Gorus Maximus together. And so I'd be interested in trying this one, see if I like it.
We got to break out Sandbag. Yeah. Now we have to play it, right?
So this does make me want to give it another try, especially if we have 4 or more, because we played it at 3-player, and I felt like even then it was even less decisions going on once you started the round. I think at a higher player count, there might be a lot. Those decisions might be amplified and more exciting.
When you can play up to 6.
Yes, you can. So 3 to 6.
Yeah.
You guys are excited about it. I would love to play it again. My initial impression was maybe trick takers that you try to not win every trick just aren't for me.
Yeah.
But I would love to try it again with you guys.
Nice. And you liked it, right, Logan?
Yeah. Overall, I thought it was a good game.
Nice. Let's give it a shot. That sounds fun.
All right. So that was another trick taker from Bezier Games, Sandbag. Coming soon.
Keep your eye out for it. It's a good one.
Yep.
So I have one more game that I want to talk about. And this is a game that I got to play solo, and then we got to play as a group. The game is called Spots. It's also available on Board Game Arena. It's published by CMYK. It's designed by Alex Haig, John Perry, and Justin Vickers. And the art is done by John Bond. And well done, John Bond, for making dogs have a lot of fun, quirky qualities in a small design space. They're just black and white dogs.
But I love the art.
But it's fun.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So what Spots is it's a push your luck game where you have a ton of dice and some dogs. Each dog has a number of spots on them, and the spots are represented by the values of dice. So it looks like 4 spots for a 4-pip die on certain dogs, or 1 spot on like Bert, for example, who is a dog that will always stick out in my mind. If you get a chance to look up the art in this card, be sure to check out Bert.
I like Bert.
Bert is, yeah. Anyway, moving on. Spots is a game in which each round, everybody is going to have the opportunity to either take an action or score points. You can only score points once you have filled up all the spots on a dog card, and then you can take a turn to score that dog. So when you take actions in this game, essentially what's going to happen is there are 6 different types of actions that you can take. And these are variable tiles that come with the game, and there's a hefty stack of these different types of actions. They have names like walk, howl, guard, fetch.
They're tricks, right?
Yeah.
Dogs are doing tricks or something?
They're the different tricks that a dog can do, right? And so you can take one of those 6 actions, and they're all different in what they can do. For example, guard will allow you to roll 4 dice, and then other cards will allow you to do different actions like get treats. Treats will allow you to do rerolls. Anyway, this game has a lot going on in it, but essentially what's going on is everybody's rolling these dice, and you can bust because you have a doghouse, and your doghouse can never have more than 7 value in it of dice. And so the trick here is that every time you're rolling dice, they can either go on your cards, or if you don't have a spot, for example, if I roll a 4 and I don't have a dog that has 4 spots on it, I have to put it in my doghouse. And I can usually continue to roll. When I bust, all the dice have to come off all of my dogs and all of my cards and then get reset. I played this game first solo, and I was not a fan of it when I played it solo because the one-player mode of it was just beat the clock, essentially, because I was waiting essentially for to get all 6 of my cards filled up, which is the win condition. If you have 6 cards filled up at any given time, you win. So the AI player in this game, from a solo perspective, just flips cards, and every round it'll end up getting a new card, essentially. So after usually around 7 or 8 rounds, the game's automatically done. So I didn't love it at that, but I recognized when I was playing it that this is another one where, like, Splitter was Misery Loves Company. This was another one that I thought, if I'm around a table with a lot of people, I can see this being a lot of raucous fun, because playing against an AI that's not actually busting on anything was not funny. But playing against other players who are busting was hilarious to me.
I mean, I busted like 6 rounds in a row.
Yes, you did.
And it was funny every round.
It was awesome.
And it got better every time you tried.
Yeah.
And then I won by doing the same action.
You ended up winning, which was awesome. It was an epic roll at the end.
Yeah.
Which, like, these push your luck games, they, there's epic moments, or there can be epic moments, and that's how it was in this one. It was a blast.
Yeah. One small ding, this game could go on and on and on, potentially.
That's my big concern with it, is that the game automatically ends once one player has 6 cards that are flipped over and completed. But the trick with that is that when you only have 1 card left,
You have to roll what you need.
You have to roll what you need or
bust.
you bust. And then you have to start over with that card. And if you're not careful, each dog can have fewer dice allotment requirements. So like Bert, for example, only has one die.
Yes, it's
and
a one
pip.
One pip.
So if you don't roll that one and that were your last card, you could be rolling for a long time.
Look up Bert to see why it's one pip.
It is awesome that there are so many different tricks, though, because the variability is I think pretty high with this. I'd love to go back and try some of the other tricks and different combinations.
But I love the fact that, slow and steady could win the race.
Absolutely.
Right? Like you could just slowly complete your dogs and then you're going to be competitive, or somebody can come from behind and just get an amazing roll, complete three dogs at once and then win, right? The fact that that's an option in the game is awesome. Yeah. I love that.
Because normally you have to score your dogs on a separate turn. But the push your luck element here is that if you can complete all of your flipped up dogs that haven't been scored yet, you get to turn them all over in the turn that you complete them. So there is this element of, should I risk it because I won't have to score next round and I can take another turn? Or if this is the last ones I need, I could potentially win it outright and not have to wait another round.
Super smart design decision.
Yeah, and that's cool. I had a round where I thought, there's no way it's going to come back to me again, so I just got to go for it. And I had to get 4 dice perfectly, and I was rolling 4 dice, but I had a bunch of dog bones, right? Which
You had
you
like
re-roll.
15 dog bones.
Yeah. So I just rolled and rolled and rolled and kept re-rolling. And
how did that work out for you, Love?
It did not end well. I had one of the dogs completed, and the other 2 were just at 1 die left each.
But you had to do it, right? I mean,
of course.
Go
had
for
to
it.
try, and that was
Well, that's
very
the other
detrimental.
problem, which is a smart design decision, I think, is that to do a reroll, you have to reroll all the dice,
right.
whether or not you want some of the values or not. If you want to reroll, you have to reroll all the dice, which makes it an interesting decision.
Because a lot of games you just reroll what you want to reroll.
Keep what you like.
Keep what you like, reroll what you want, but this one forces you to, that's super interesting because you could have dice that work, but you're like, crap, I don't want to put a 6 in the doghouse.
And you didn't bust, but you
but
could
you're
potentially
almost
get
there.
a better one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
I had a lot of fun with it. I think we were all laughing and having a good time with it. I did play it on BGA months ago, and it loses something there, right? The turns are super quick, and there's a lot of them. So unless everybody's sitting at their computer playing constantly, it just takes forever, and you don't have the everybody cheering type moments either.
Yeah.
So
I think that was, after playing it solo and having read the rules, I was like, this game is going to shine the most at the table. So I didn't want to play it on BGA because I had
But it's consistent with the type of game that
absolutely.
it is. So
If
it's
you
not
were
really a
looking
game.
for this game to play solo, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you're looking to play a fun push your luck game that kind of gets rowdy around the table, this is excellent for that.
especially when who comes out?
Bert.
Bert comes out.
Love Bert. I had Bert, by the way.
Yeah, be proud of that.
If you want to know what Bert looks like, go look it up. Go buy the game.
Yeah.
Go buy the game.
But that was Spots from CMYK.
We're to our last game. This was a game that Cosmos sent us. It's designed by Michael Manzel, and the artist is Michael Manzel, and he is, of course, the guy that did Legends of Andor, right? One of Logan's favorite games.
Yeah, it's awesome.
At
It's
least
an
back
epic
in the
game.
day. This is called Dragonkeepers, and there's no space in Dragonkeepers. There's another game that has a space that came out a few years ago. This came out last year from Cosmos. Essentially, it's a lighter weight, really quick 20-minute card drafting set collection game. There are 2 stacks of different dragons. The dragons are the same. There's 4 suits of dragons. They're different colors. One of them looks like the really hairy cows. That's a dragon. But anyway, there's 2 stacks of dragons. And on one stack, it tells you the number of dragons that you can play. And the other stack on the back of it's got the color of the dragon that you can play. And then by both of those stacks, you have 1 card face up from each stack. So on your turn, you're going to draw 3 cards. And if you take you have to take one of the face up cards. When you take that card, it immediately replaces, and it might change the suit of the dragon that's on top, or you might, if you draw from the point style stack, you're going to change what the dragons that you need to play are, right? The number and what the reward's going to be. So you draw 3 cards right away. Then you can optionally change one of those stacks by placing one of your cards on top of it. So if I've got like 4 blues in my hand and the reward or the requirement for me to actually play dragons is a 4 and it's orange, but I have another card that will change the orange to a blue, I'll put that down. Then I can play my 4 blue dragons. I'll get a really nice reward. Then other players will have a chance to also play 4 blue dragons, and then that's the end of my turn. And they would also get the same reward. So as you complete rewards, you're receiving amulets, you're receiving crystals that allow you to draw an extra card on your turn. There might be golden eggs that are worth points, 4 points each. At the end of the game, whoever has the most will get to flip one over and have 16 points. There are also 3 crests, are varying point values. And you get one of those when you get all 4 dragons colors out in front of you. And well, why wouldn't you just do that right from the start? Well, once you play 2 dragon suits out in front of you, they're separate piles. Say I've got white and orange out. If I put blue out now and I put it on the other side of orange from white, now I can no longer play any orange dragons. So you can only play what's on the edges. So if I've got white and blue on the edges, I can play white and blue dragons or a green dragon with a new pile. It played really quick. There were some good decisions, interesting decisions. I thought it was really fun. What did you think, Logan?
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was cool, the concept of every time you draw a card, it's changing the scoring conditions and the rewards, but then also being able to influence it the way you want. It was cool. There was this turn that you had where I had no idea what you were planning on doing, and you slipped in this super good reward, but you had to have 6 of the same type, and you had that 6, and you played it, and it was just awesome. I think that gave you like 25 points or something like that. And another thing that's cool is that the main scoring mechanic is you're getting these little pieces of amulets, and you're putting them together, and as the game progresses, the amulet pieces are worth more and more points. And so you build your little amulet and you finish it, and the game ends after a certain number of amulets are completed, right, between all the players. So you almost try to like race the players to get the higher ones, but at the same time, there was a couple turns where I like waited to get a point because I wanted the lower points out so I could start getting the higher amulet pieces. Yeah. And I think that was a really cool mechanic too.
Yeah. My wife played a 6 and got a huge reward on the last turn, and she won the game. And I could have had an opportunity to play because every time it's someone else's turn, whatever the reward is and whatever the requirement is, everybody gets a chance to play it. I was 1 card short, but it was an awesome turn that she had because she scored like 40 points on that last turn, and she ended up winning.
Yeah,
right?
She won by 10. So without that massive turn,
Yeah, it's a really fun, lighter weight, quick.
20 minutes, right?
Yeah, card drafting, set collection type game with some good decisions. You can add in magic chests. We didn't play with those. I wish we would have because, like you said about
trekking through history.
Just
like, add it.
Just add it in and play with them from the start. Really fun family weight game, and I'm excited to play this again. One of you guys are definitely welcome to borrow it if you'd like.
I'm just curious, looking at the art, which is really cute, by the way.
It is. And my wife kept saying, "Oh, I love the art on this."
It's really cute. I'm just curious. Are we sure these are dragons or are they winged goats? Because there's like 3 or 4 different variations of goats in here. It looks like.
Yeah, they're like a hybrid animal dragons, right? I don't know.
I think it's cute. Like it's fun.
The art looks really good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, so had a lot of fun with this one. Definitely going to play it again. That's Dragonkeepers from Cosmos.
Love it.
I think that wraps up the games that we've been playing lately. I think we sufficiently talked about a lot of games.
We did.
All right, let's jump into the feature review portion of the episode. We're going to kick that off with a game overview. Honestly, the overview that was written on BGG was so well done that we're just going to use that. I tweaked it slightly, but I thought it did a good job of summarizing the game without giving away spoilers. But I can't take credit for it. Somebody at Lucky Duck Games did an excellent job writing it. Divinus, designed by Filip Miłuński, is a competitive legacy tile-laying digital hybrid game in which you play as a demigod seeking to gain the favor of the gods and ascend to a new pantheon. Players embark on a 12-scenario campaign that will see them exploring lands, completing quests, interacting with gods, and impacting the outcomes of the epic clash between Greek and Norse pantheons. At the beginning of each campaign scenario, players open a sealed box of new quests, components, stickers, gods, gameplay mechanisms, and more. The Divinus app provides a narrative for players and sets the stakes for what is to come. Each turn, players spend dice from their pool to explore new tiles from the world board. Laying tiles into their 4x4 demigod map, they must place tiles adjacent to one another and with matching features while working towards overall quest and god goals. Alternatively, players may take a rest action and retrieve their dice from the world map and refresh all the tiles where their dice were removed. Throughout the campaign, players make permanent changes to their demigods by collecting powerful artifacts, forging their dice by altering their faces, and earning titles for the feats they achieve. Players will also permanently change the game world by altering tiles and placing new locations, heroes, and monsters onto the map tiles. When players complete quests or other significant goals, they can make pivotal decisions through the Divinus app. Players will decide the outcome of dilemmas such as choosing which side is victorious in battle, building or destroying a holy site, and choosing whether a god lives or dies. Whichever outcome the player chooses, the game components may be changed, and the Divinus app will remember and present contextual options in the future that are impacted by the decision. Returning to a fort that you helped the Norse gods build could see you praised, while demigods favored by the Greek pantheons could be shunned. The Divinus campaign is played over several game sessions due to the persistent and changing world. The rulebook grows with each scenario as new rules and content are unlocked. Once the campaign is complete, players can replay their unique copy of Divinus with a post-campaign infinite replayability or eternal mode. That's a brief summary. Now let's head back to the table to see what we think about Divinus.
Let's talk about this game that you guys have been able to play a ton of. Both Logan and Tyler have been able to play this game a lot. Kevin and I haven't had a chance to play this, so this will be a different style review for us. We're going to ask you some questions and get your take on this as well as you go through this. But to start, we like for our reviews to go and talk about the production quality of the game. What do you guys think about the production quality? And maybe we should talk about there are 2 different productions in this game.
Well, so I was really interested in this game. I backed the Kickstarter for it, got the Chest of Plenty. We've got the base game. We've got the Pandora's Box, the Shadow of
Yggdrasil.
Yes, that.
Yggdrasil?
Yes.
Yggdrasil.
Yeah. Oh, something like that.
Yeah, Yggdrasil.
Yeah.
Yggdrasil.
Yggdrasil, whatever. Yeah.
So I was really excited to get this. We ended up with a review copy as well of just the base game from Lucky Duck Games. Logan and I played our copy of it, just 2-player, but we didn't actually play with bonus components, right? It came with miniatures and some of that extra content in the Chest of Plenty. But I think we pretty much played the base game as it exists and will exist in retail. I love the production of this game. I think the art is beautiful. It's very thematic. It's just, I mean, it just speaks to the theme. I mean, you essentially have got Norse gods battling Greek gods and all of their heroes and demigods. You're playing as a demigod, right? What did you think about the production, Logan?
I love the artwork. The artwork is amazing. Another thing I loved is that most of the components are kept in very like compact boxes. So it's like, oh, we're playing with these players, we're going to grab out these demigod boxes, and it's this scenario, we're just going to grab out that scenario box, open it up, and we've got all of our components, right?
Yeah, it's really quick to set up, right?
Yeah, and I like how compact and organized it was in the box.
Yeah, they did a really good job.
Any issues with the components at all? Like I've read some comments about maybe the stickers were an issue.
I've read that too.
Do you guys have any issues with those?
So there were a couple stickers that we had issues with, but I think it was more because I kind of touched the sticky part with my finger and didn't just keep my fingers on the edge of the sticker.
You de-stickied it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. But what it says in the rule book, I believe, is if that happens, to put it back on the sheet. And leave it there for a couple seconds and then try and reapply it.
They actually addressed that in the rule book?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Or in the app, I think, maybe. One of the two. And I got used to how the stickers go on, though. Like how much, because you're putting on a lot of stickers. It's a legacy game.
Customizing the dice, right?
That's a big part of it. And those are maybe the more tricky ones to put on. Everything else, the stickers you're putting on, they adhere really well, I thought. But there were a couple dice where I'd put it on and I think I had it, and then it would slide just a little bit, and then I'd trying to push it back in place, but really didn't have a problem. And because we were only playing with 2-player, we had plenty of extra numbers of any type that there were like 2 or 3 that I just put back on and got a new version of it.
As I was looking at this game, like there are other games that have customizable dice, like Dice Realms, or there's a Roll for the Galaxy expansion where you actually have these pieces that you push into the dice themselves. I'm like, oh, that would be kind of cool, but the game would cost $800, you know? So the stickers was probably the right way to go.
Right. And the dice are big, chunky dice. And that was fun. It also made it easier to apply the stickers, right?
Yeah.
You have sausage fingers.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you do. I'm just saying in general.
You also mentioned the app, and I wanted to, with a production, we usually talk about board game production, and I know that app production is a component to it. How much did the app integration work with the rest of the production of this, and do you feel it was on the same level as the rest of the production?
Yeah, I think it worked really well. One thing that was cool is like almost everything you did had a ton of flavor text that was really cool for the story. One thing that was fun is looking back, there was things that were like foreshadowing to things in the future, and that was really cool. Another thing I loved is that there were certain things that we weren't sure how they were going to resolve. And so then when we're reading it, or my dad's reading it and I'm listening, and we're like, ooh, I think this is what's going to happen. That was a really cool experience. And then from like a practical standpoint, it worked really well. They had this, you can scan some stickers, but if you can't get the scan to work right, you can just manually push in stuff to pick the right sticker.
You just enter the number of the sticker in, and
yeah, and so it was really nice, and it worked really well with the game.
Honestly, I tried once to scan a picture, and it's just so much quicker to put the number in. I just entered them manually the rest of the time, you know.
Lucky Duck, that like Chronicles of Crime or other games,
Destinies,
they do that so well, right? The app integration is amazing. So you mentioned that Tyler was reading a lot. Does it narrate it, or are you actually reading?
You're reading it. Okay. There's no audio. Well, music playing in the background. I will say, I am not a big story. Like I have a short attention span sometimes, but I never got really bored at all with this story. I thought it flowed really well. There were times where there was like 4 or 5 screens of text that I read to progress the story. And that, like once or twice, I was like, ugh. But for the most part, I was engaged in the story. It it was really well done. I will say on each scenario, you've got quests, you've got gods, and some other potential things that are going on. The app has a glossary sections for that scenario. So when you go to a glossary, like if you're not sure exactly how one of the gods scores or how to finish one of the quests, you go to the glossary, click on gods, click the one, and it explains the rules for it, or the quest, right? And I thought it did a really good job with that. I will say, like, it was a little terrifying, like getting into the 10th and 11th and 12th scenario, like what happens if somehow our data gets corrupted? You can't just restart the game playing it for the first time when so much has changed. And because every decision you make, everything you do progresses the story in a different direction in one or the other player's favor. And there's just no coming back from that. So that made me nervous.
Did you see any bugs in the app as you're playing?
There weren't. I didn't see any bugs. In the 10th and 11th and 12th scenario, it omitted one of the constant rules of what to do with a couple dice. But we just played it how the rule book had it, and I think those had just been left off accidentally. And I think I saw a comment on BGG that, no, you are supposed to play with those dice still.
Yeah, I remember my kids and I played through Kids Chronicles. It was a fantastic experience, another Lucky Duck game that uses an app. And I remember going through that, and there were a few little hiccups in the app. It wasn't perfect, but it did a really good job of guiding you through the game. And that sounds like a similar experience you guys had for this.
Yeah,
I was just going to say that would scare me too, the potential to lose your game, because I played Charterstone on the digital version of it. The first time I played through it, I got through like 5 or 6 games, and then it bugged out. Oh. And like I had to restart my whole campaign.
And that's not fun.
And it fortunately that was full digital. I can only imagine where if you have partially like digital companion app, but then you also have like the board game that you've stickered up and you've already done all this stuff to, that would be catastrophic.
And I bought the recharge pack, but at that point, am I going to really want to go reset everything so I can go play those first 10 missions again if that happened?
But it sounds like that's unlikely.
Yeah, I sure hope that nobody has that experience, and we didn't have that experience.
Yeah, and another thing that is like both a positive about the game, but also like if you were to lose your data is really bad, is that the story is not linear. It's there's a lot of like random encounters that if you went through the same thing multiple times, you would get different results.
Absolutely.
Which was really cool.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like we're getting into gameplay now.
Yeah.
So let's jump into gameplay.
Do you have anything else about the production?
No, we covered all the bases.
Tell us a little bit about some of the things that stand out with this game and what you really like about it.
And I think we should preface this a little bit where there may be some minor spoilers as you talk about the gameplay. I don't think anything that would ruin the experience, but just be aware of there may be some things that you won't discover on your own as we're talking about it here.
Yeah. Go ahead, Logan.
Well, one thing that really stood out to me that I thought was awesome is the just basic mechanic of tile drafting is really simple, but yet there's a lot of really fun decisions to make. It's not just like the same boring thing every game. It's like different from scenario to scenario, or even just like from turn to turn, the different decisions you can make from what's available to what dice you can use. It was just awesome that it was so simple yet so variable. Like,
yeah, I was going to say the same thing. The tiles are laid out on a board and they're in spaces 1 through 12. And so you have to use your dice in some combination, either by adding or subtracting dice values to get say if I want the 7, I'm going to play a 12 and a 5 or a 3 and a 4 to combo to get that spot, or just a 7 because later on I'm getting cool dice values, right? But the tile drafting, very simple mechanic, but as it evolves from scenario to scenario, the game just changes in so many different ways, whether it's the quests or how the gods are scored or little mini games that start getting added in some of the later scenarios that all play really well into the story. It is just fascinating, the available choices that you have each time you're drafting. And there's so many times you're basically on your turn, you're either drafting a tile or you're resting. Plus you get to do some type of demigod action. And those will expand over the course of the game as well. But there's times where it's like, okay, if I rest now, all new tiles are going to go out where my dice were. And Logan still has a lot of dice, so he's going to have his pick of the best of the litter. Whereas if I can eke out one more turn where I'm drafting a tile and then he rests first, I'm going to get the first choice at some of these new and available tiles. You're modifying the tiles. Stickers are getting added. There's from scenario to scenario, it changes which tiles are valuable and which ones are exciting. You're putting new locations on these tiles that you'll revisit later. And depending on kind of who's progressed the story on that tile, the story, it just reacts to it, right? And it's fun.
In the game, there's the Greeks, the Vikings, and the barbarians, right? And throughout the game, not only are you doing actual mechanic changes, but you're adding like thematic titles to your character. And so one of my titles was Barbarian Architect, and there was this location of this barbarian city that I built for them. And so every time we went there, they would talk about how they worshipped me and they had like statues and paintings of me. And that was just a really cool element of the game.
Whereas I neglected one of my locations and I showed up much later than I should have, and they were like, get out of here.
That's cool. So you talk about the additional rules. Does the complexity of the game come from the additional rules or just from the choices that you have to make? Where would it rate on the complexity scale, I guess? You're adding a lot of stuff to it, right?
Yeah, you are. I don't feel like the game itself gets more and more complex per se. I think the complexity comes in, okay, there's god scoring, there's quest scoring, there's some other potential scoring on tiles. What ones am I going to go for? How do I balance out what I can get the most points out of? I didn't feel like the game got that much more difficult from scenario 1 to scenario 12. It was more just a couple more things to consider when you're trying to score the best in each scenario.
Is that because it built on itself essentially, and like you already knew your core rule set, and then now it adds more, and it's like learning a little bit more each time?
Yeah, and it does a good job of progressing you at a good pace. There are a ton of rule stickers that you add to this book. But one thing that's cool, you add most of the rules about halfway through, and as far as the rule book, but then after that, the little mini games really start to pick up and the other considerations. So even though the rule book is pretty much done and set in stone, you're still adding new things to consider each scenario. And I thought that was really cool. So you get your base core rules pretty early on, and then over time, you're still getting new sets of mini game type rules to consider each round or each scenario.
That's cool. Does it add to the playtime considerably from your first play to your last play? Are you adding a bunch of it? Does the game take a lot longer, I guess?
So I think the middle scenarios took the longest, and then it started getting shorter in the later scenarios, back closer to how the first scenarios played, just because the initial rules in the first scenarios 2 through 6, there is a lot that gets added.
Yeah.
And so that, I know for us, it slowed the game down a little bit, but then after that, once we got more used to them, it went back.
And there's a few minutes of upkeep in between your sessions. We played some back-to-back scenarios, and there's a few minutes of story, adding stickers, upgrading stuff, changing things. So,
and you guys played, just to clarify, just the two of you. If you added more players to this, how do you think that would impact the gameplay?
I think it would add some gameplay to it. The round ends when all players either pass twice in a row or somebody completes their 4x4 map grid. You finish the round and the game ends. I think if you did have additional players, it would add some time. I would say that most of our games were between 45 minutes and an hour and 15 minutes. Our abilities started to get really powerful because you're you're modifying dice, you're picking up extra abilities along the way, and in some of the later games, you don't rest as much, so you're taking fewer turns overall, and I think they really start to pick up a little bit at the end.
So it's a 12 game legacy campaign.
Yep.
Right. You have the recharge pack. You could go back and play it again. Is this a game that you would go through the campaign again?
I would absolutely do it. You can play in legendary mode. Is that what it's
Eternal
called?
mode.
Eternal mode.
Or infinite replayability mode or whatever. Is
Right.
what I was reading. Whatever, you can play it.
Yeah. So I would like to try it out like that. The app isn't quite ready for the extended content. Pandora's Box and Chest of Plenty, which again is extra content, it should be added to the app, I believe, on March 26th. And then the Shadow of
Norse mythology, Yggdrasil, the Tree of Life.
Yeah. That one is going to get added sometime in April. So
Okay. So there's more content there.
I want to play one of those is added to the base game, and I'd like to play that. I would go back and recharge this and play it in a year or two, and I think it would be awesome. And it would be something I'd like to involve, more than just a 2-player game and see how it goes. The nice thing about playing it 2-player, we played all 12 games in 11 days, and never once was I bored. And it just, and we've got work, life, right? Busy lives. We've got the podcast stuff. Playing this was not a chore at all. It was a lot of fun. So
Cool. Well, that says a lot. If you replay a legacy game, usually it's one and done, right? If you go back and replay again or want to replay again, that says a lot about the game, especially with all of the other campaign games that we have lined up that we want to play.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, and the fact that it does have additional content, the expansion to content that you've already mentioned, and that there is room to grow, that sounds, if it's a game that you're going to commit the full 12 games to already, it seems like a no-brainer to jump in and continue with the rest of the extra stuff.
Yeah. Logan, so how many scenarios are added with the expanded content?
So Chest of Plenty in of itself brings 1 extra scenario. Then Pandora's Box brings an extra 5. And then Shadow of Yggdrasil adds another 8 scenarios.
And
that's standalone.
That's a
Sorry.
standalone game, which is cool.
Oh.
I'm sure there's some mechanics that are shared and that it'll be familiar.
Does that have to come after the first campaign, or could it be played independently?
It's independent.
Yeah.
So clearly you guys like this game. There's a lot of good things to say about it. Is there any negatives that you guys have about this game?
We talked about player count. I don't think I would want to play this at 4-player. I do think it would drag on. 3-player, I think, would still be good, but
borderline.
But I don't know. It could add a different dynamic to the game, because a lot of times throughout these scenarios, Logan was siding with one of the factions and I was siding with the other faction predominantly. And so adding in a 3rd player might mix that up a little bit and makes some of those decisions a little bit better. So yeah, I'm not sure I want to play it with 4-player. I think it would drag. 2-player was awesome. I think 3-player could be really good.
I did have one complaint, and throughout the campaign, you get these artifacts that give you extra abilities that you can use. At one point, my dad got this one artifact, and I'm not going to say what it does or how he got it, but its effect was way more powerful than like any of the other artifacts we saw, and he scored tons of points from it, to the point where I feel like if I were to play through the campaign again, I would do everything in my power to just get that artifact. And I think that was really my only complaint.
Which can be a pretty big complaint if you feel that something breaks the game, right?
Yeah, I don't think it breaks the game. I think so. I was actually going to say, if you got the right combination of, there's three or 4 really, really powerful artifacts, and if you got the right combination of them, you could really dominate. I did score a bunch of extra points, but I also had to focus my gameplay towards completing those things that would give me those extra points, right? And so I maybe didn't do as well in other areas. I'm not saying I don't agree that you have a real complaint there. I think it did give me an extra boost. But I don't think it broke the game.
If we were looking at the scores from game to game, our scores were within 1 to 2 points of each other, and then you got that artifact, and then you were beating me by like 10 points every scenario.
I have the data to prove you wrong, but I'm not going to. And there's some things that happen in this game that we can't talk about because it would be spoilery. I understand your criticism of it. I think there are a few artifacts that are really powerful. That is the only one that I think gives you additional points. And so I could see how that would be frustrating if you didn't have that one.
So I'm curious if artifacts are guaranteed to show up, or if like that artifact is that like a branching narrative type of thing that it would or wouldn't come up in play in certain instances of games.
There were artifacts that nobody got, that we never took, that you could still see on the sticker sheet. I think it's possible that someone could not get that one.
Yeah, and there were like certain artifacts where there'd be 2, and depending on which Pantheon did better, that determined which artifact came into play. Like we had one early where I got one because the Pantheon I supported did better than the one my dad supported. So,
What was my best title?
Oh, Champion of the Festival. Champion of the Festival.
Champion of the Festival. I outdrunk the locals. And it was awesome.
And he got a title for it, and that was cool.
Yeah, it was a little fun thing. That's minor gameplay spoiler.
Nice. I'm excited to hear final scores.
Yeah, no, I think...
it's not 100% glowing review, so let's see where this shakes out.
It sounds like it's going to be a high one, I'm guessing.
I played every single game with Logan, and I saw how excited he was to play, and I'm a little surprised, but I think you like this game more than you've let on.
Yeah, I love this game. I think the theme is just absolutely amazing. I think it's just really cool, and the gameplay is really fun.
So why don't you go and jump in and give us your final thoughts?
And the scale, for those that do not know, Tyson's favorite part of the review episode.
Great, guys.
0 to 100.
And you don't have to go in increments of 10.
You do not have to go in increments of 10.
Did I hear some nonsense with Dan that you were going to throw decimals in there?
Well, maybe, but let's keep it to whole numbers here.
Yes, please.
All right.
I thought this game was fantastic. Overall, I think it was really good. Just had one minor issue. I think on the scale of 0 to 100, I'd probably give it like an 87 because it was really good.
Crosby.
I did have, Crosby as well. I liked how that panned out. But
for those that don't know, that was a hockey reference.
I just had one issue with it, and that kind of brought it down from the 90s, but it was still like a fantastic game, super fun. I was always excited when we talked about playing it. My dad wouldn't even be home from work, and he'd be sending a text like, hey, make sure Divinus is set up so we can play it as soon as Cade goes to bed, right? It was just, we were really excited to play it, and it was awesome.
87, solid.
So you said minor issue. There was no game-breaking issue there. I'm just kidding. So
he doesn't like your rating.
Yeah. No, I love that you loved it. I asked you at one point, and most of your experience with legacy games is Pandemic Season 1 and 2 and partway of 0, which we all loved. And it's been a few years, but you said you enjoyed this more than Pandemic Legacy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Which that says a lot because
that's one of my all-time favorite game experiences ever.
Right.
Is Pandemic Legacy Season 1.
Yeah. So I loved the gameplay. I loved the story. I was a little worried that I'm going to get bored with the text. And I thought the story was really well done. And not just the story was well done, but the scenarios were, and the gameplay of each scenario was really well tied into each of the stories for that scenario, right? And it progressed really well. There were a couple times that we laughed. There were some subtle jokes within the text. Some things happen with certain gods that they were hilarious, right? And, each of the gods had different personality and as the story progressed, and so many cool things. The mini games that got added to some of the later scenarios was just changed it up enough, kept it interesting, kept it exciting. I felt like the decisions, that base mechanic of drafting tiles and how am I going to spend my dice to draft a tile, but then still save a die to do one of the demigod actions that I want to do. Really cool decisions. Loved the gameplay, never bored one moment of this game. Out of the 12 plays, I had one game where I felt like completely frustrated, that I felt like everything I tried to do, just Logan was doing it better and was accomplishing things before I was. I felt like I just couldn't get anything done. One play out of 12, that's not bad at all. And even that play was still fun. It was just a little bit frustrating. Loved every single play of this. Fantastic game, fantastic theme, art, production, everything. I loved it. I'm going to go an 89. I really enjoyed this game. I look forward to playing some of the expanded content. I want to try Eternal mode.
Yep.
I also could see us going back to this in a couple of years. The fact that we played 12 games in 11 days and I was never bored once and I never felt like it was a chore just speaks a lot to this game and the overall experience. So 89 is my rating. Absolutely great experience. If you have the opportunity to check out Divinus, I think the base campaign box, which is what we played, was a fantastic experience.
I got to ask, since we heard Logan's comparison to other Legacy games he's played, where does this fall for you, Tyler?
So I think the experience in Pandemic Season 1, Legacy Season 1 and 2 was so just new and unique that, like Kevin, it was just one of my favorite experiences all time of playing games. I will say, had I played this first, I would have probably felt the same way about this game. So it's hard to know, to compare.
It doesn't have the novelty of a new Legacy game or like a Legacy genre, but it is
right.
It is
'Cause
on par.
Pandemic Legacy, like the first time you played that, you're like, what? I get to open up a box and get new content
And then be told
and then
to tear it
destroy a
up. Yeah.
card?
Yeah.
What? You
Yes.
know, it was just mind-blowing, right?
Yeah.
And yeah.
And Tyson, you talked about like comparing it to other Legacy games. Another thing I loved that I kind of miss in certain other campaign or Legacy games is that you could advance the story and still score points. One of my issues with some of the other games we've played is that you either score points or advance the story, but this game you were able to do both at the same time, and I personally really enjoyed that.
I will say, too, how the end of the campaign and the resolution, even though I won, it felt very rewarding for both of us, right?
Yeah.
It had a really cool way of ending the campaign that just felt rewarding. And even though, I was the one to win, Logan enjoyed it too. And we commented like, if that had ended differently, it might have been kind of lame, but how they ended the campaign was really cool. And I don't want to give anything away, but it was just really cool.
Well, it's definitely it piqued my interest in wanting to try this. And seeing as there's just two of us, Kevin, who haven't played it at this table here, and they said it works well at 2 players, we might have to figure out how to play this.
Hey, I'm game. Let's do it.
All right.
I love Legacy games.
Well, I think that wraps up the review of Divinus by Lucky Duck Games.
Nailed it.
You got it.
You got it. It's the end of the episode, and you finally did it.
Just did it. That's all I needed. Are there things that we are excited about that we wanted to talk about?
I think considering the fact that it's already getting close to midnight, there's about 4 or 5 inches of snow. We got another 12 to 30 in our
40.
forecast.
I got to go shake off my trees. I'm worried about them. So
Yeah,
let's get
I think we should call it a night, but we'll be back soon, very soon, with another interview.
we have not announced this yet, but it's one that we're very excited about.
Very excited about. Should
Yep.
we announce it or?
Let's do it. Let's give a teaser.
Yeah, what are you teasing?
What are we teasing?
No.
So we interviewed David Turtsey, one of our favorite designers. Designed my number one game of all time, Anachrony. We talked to him about that. We talked about all kinds of other things. Great, fun interview. And
Dude's brilliant.
He is. And it was so fascinating. You'll hear it in the interview, but how his mind works about game design and what he talked about was just, it was fascinating. I think you mentioned, Tyler, we could have talked to him for probably an hour and a half more than we did.
Yeah.
And we talked to him for maybe 45 minutes. So super excited to get that episode released. And it's coming down the road. Not quite sure when we're going to release that one, but it's coming.
I got to get caught up. I'm dragging, but we'll get caught up. And it was a really cool interview, and excited for other ones that are also coming in the future.
We've got another one lined up that we will announce at a future date.
Yeah,
That's right.
All right.
Yeah, well, and thanks, Logan, for being on. It's been fun having you here.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait for the next time I can come on.
I'm just glad you cut your mullet off. So that's awesome.
He lost about 5 pounds, something like that. No lie. It was
It was pretty epic.
It was an epic mullet.
I mean, 80s prime mullet material.
No longer.
No longer. No longer.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Longest Turn Board Gaming Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you want more Longest Turn in your life, please check us out on Instagram. Also, be sure to check us out on Board Game Geek, where you can join our guild, Guild 3947, and check out our blog, where we post all our show notes and occasionally post more detailed reviews. If that's not enough for you, we have a Discord server. If you want to play a game with us on Board Game Arena, join our Board Game Arena group, The Longest Turn. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Tot ziens.
Goodbye.
See you later.
And it's time to jump into our feature review portion of the game.
Of the game.
Of the game.
Outtakes. We got an outtake.
Thanks, Tyler, for the rules of Divinus.
Divinus.
Did we decide on that?
Divinus.
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 Di-
You said.
Why are you looking at me like that?
You just said two different
No,
things.
Divinus.
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 Okay.
Div.
Yeah,
and
Divinus. Now I'm just messing with you. Okay, Divinus.
I hate that.
Divinus.
Thanks, Tyler. Thanks for the rules of Divinus, Tyler.
Divinus. Okay. Do you want me to do this?
Yes, I do.
I think, considering the fact that it's already snored, it's